Good evening, everyone. It is Jeanette Martin, the owner of MYBC Consulting, and also I'm going to say the virtual owner of the MYBC Virtual Bookstore the Bookstore. Yeah, that's first of all how that started. And way back at the end of December 2020, I decided I wanted to honor books and honor the artists that took fingers to keyboard, pen to paper, voice note to voice recording, and share with the world their story. And I think, I know my life has been built one story on top of another. So tonight I'm so excited because shout out to Ms. Diane Parnell. I always like to give a big shout out to who connects me up with authors. So shout out to you, Diane, and I know you're watching. Welcome Becky Graff to the Virtual Bookstore Author Series.
Thank you so much for having me, Jeanette. I'm excited to be here.
So whereabouts in this big blue marble do you live?
I actually live in West Jordan, Utah, so just outside of downtown Salt Lake City. Been here most of my life, actually, so at least in the state, but I'm from Utah.
You're from Utah, and we were just sharing before we came on. I was there in 2019, and absolutely loved it. It's beautiful. It almost feels it's drier than BC because, of course, we've got the mountains, and there's got a little bit of water with where you guys are too. So it's just beautiful. So I love to say whenever I'm interviewing a lady is tell us a little bit about your her story, please.
Her story.
Yeah.
Wow. My her story's got a lot of moving pieces. So I'll do like the last 5 years. How about that? That work?
Perfect. And kind of your family story, if you've got a family and all the rest of that good stuff.
Yeah. So born and raised for the most part in Utah. I am the youngest of 4 children. My parents are both living, so are all my siblings. And I grew up in a small town where I had easy access to mountains, and I absolutely love the outdoors. Have ever since I can remember. I did backpacking trips with my dad when I was little, carried my own water, my own backpack, those kinds of things. Grew up, got married, ended up being married for 5 years, got divorced, remarried within a year, actually. Somebody brand new. I hadn't had any contact with him before. It was a blind date, which was fun. First, only, and last. And and he and I actually never thought that we were going to have a family together. He actually had a daughter from a previous relationship. I was told that I was never going to be able to have children unless I had significant help. And so we kind of started our relationship off with that idea that it was going to be us and my bonus daughter, and that was going to be life. And like I said, I love the outdoors. So anything that would get me closer to that, I gravitated towards. And in 2008 is when I married my current husband, Tim. And in 2016, we started down the entrepreneurial route. And I really fell in love with this idea of being able to help people grow and to have leverage. And that actually came on the tailspin of a good dear friend of mine whose husband was in a severe accident. He almost lost his life. And it really caused me to take a significant look at my own life, my own journey, what I wanted to do. And that's kind of what spearheaded me into the next chapter, if you will, of my life. In 2012, I ended up getting pregnant with my miracle daughter, McKinsley. And true story. So I was actually visiting my brother in New Mexico, and my husband and I love to do car trips. So we just get in the car and go explore. And I was like off my game. I was spacey, nothing tasted good. I was just kind of like in this really weird space. Came back, I ended up having come down with like bronchitis or something like that. Went to the doctor, he gave me my medicine. Then as an afterthought, he's like, well, could you be pregnant? And I thought long and hard about that. I'm like, guess it could be. It's not probable. It wasn't ever supposed to happen.
Right.
Anyway,
right.
Took pregnancy test. Voila, miracle baby arrived in 2012 and followed by her sister in 2016. So that was beautiful, magical experience, changed the dynamic of my world. And then also gave me a lot of leverage for what I was doing with my business. Again, coaching and helping entrepreneurs find personal, professional clarity, really working and leveraging that as a mentor and a coach was something I totally loved. In fact, Diane Parnell actually we met through that venue. She's an incredible woman. And then,
I'm going to pause you there, Becky,
yeah,
because as I get into this kind of first little bit of conversation, you'll see that I'm not your typical podcast interview person. We're just kind of two girls. I'm in my kitchen. I got a cup of tea going, chatting with you. There's a couple of things that I want to unpack there. As I like to say in the interview language, is when I hear, and I don't know your story, I read the back of your book, and the one key piece was about that heartfelt journey, how it turned into a heartfelt journey. And I know we're going to get into that. I want to dial it back to when your children were came into this world, you being a businesswoman, newly married, really, when in the grand scheme of things. So how did you manage that process? Because you seem very passionate about X and Y and Z in your life, being business, kids, and new hubby. So how did you do that back in 2014, I believe is what you said?
So 2012 is when my first, and it was interesting because the dynamic in my household changed. As you can imagine, I had been working before I had my child, and then we wanted something different. And so the dynamic shifted between spotty calls, right? Can take students at this time. I can, work my business during these hours. I found myself working pretty late. My husband really stepped up his game and fulfilled a lot of roles as well as things moved and progressed, because I was gone for workshops. And so he became Mr. Mom. And I had a really great opportunity to leverage him. Beautiful thing about having two parents that can do that, right? And so it was difficult at first to like set office hours and to really not divide my attention, but put emphasis on the specifics of, okay, this is the amount of time that I have to work my business. This is the time that is non-negotiable family time. This is the time that we, husband and I have our own time as well. Because again, you have multiple relationships where you've got your relationship with yourself, what I wanted to create with business, what I wanted for my family. And so it really was difficult in the beginning. I'm not going to lie, it was really hard, a lot of trial and error to find out what worked best for us. And it ended up that me working after the girls were to sleep worked out best for me. So those later evenings, like 8, 9, 10, Tim would put them to bed. I would work on the calls that I needed to and structure my day so that I was working during nap times or when they were at school, so that I could fit all the bits in and not sacrifice that relationship and the time with them. Because the point in me doing my business was to have more time, freedom with my family, right? That was the core driver. That was everything in my world, is to make sure that we had what we needed, that we had flexibility so that they, McKinsley and Ellie, could pursue whatever they wanted in life, right? I wanted them to have opportunities. I wanted them to have the ability to pursue talents and desire, so that when they became an adult, they had those things to kind of look back on, like I've done this kind of thing and I gravitated towards this, or no, I really didn't like that. So they had more to pull from as they stepped into that new role of, young adult and further in their life as well.
It's important for us to have this conversation, because everybody just thinks it starts just so like today, tomorrow, things just happen. And that when you choose to get a business or take pen to paper or have children, just what that's going to look like for life. And how a couple of weeks ago, we had a lady on that said, yeah, my family was all behind me. And it's like, hold it, like, let's stop there for a second. How did you get your family on board with what this dream was of writing a book? Like, and because there's people out there that are going to watch, I take this video and I share it on my YouTube and share it on my, Instagram and over on Facebook and LinkedIn. And there's somebody out there who's like, oh, I just need to know that little piece and I'll jump. I'll jump. So I just love how sounds like you've got a really amazing foundation there, Becky, in the family dynamic. So let's get into the next, shall we say, chapter of Becky's story.
Yeah. So next chapter of my story is, to your point, there was a lot of growing pains in the beginning. Absolutely. Just like with any change that we experience. And I did have to communicate with my kids and my spouse, what's the net reward of this? How come daddy's putting you to sleep tonight when mommy's on a call, when you can hear her downstairs? What is the value for that? And it was something that we were able to put into place where it equated more time together. So we can go hiking this weekend. Mom's gonna work this week so that we can go and do these kinds of things.
Right.
So it was a very open dialogue, even though my daughters were young, 3 and 7. It was something that they understood. Anytime I had an appointment, anytime I went anywhere, it was talked about what it was for and what the back end for them was. And so it wasn't always just, I'm just busy, right? That's how come those relationship pieces for me were so important, that my girls knew that they had uninterrupted mommy time. They had uninterrupted family time. When I was with my family, I wasn't working. And again, those things were clearly communicated so that when it was me working time, that's, what my focus was for that. And the other things, could wait, because there were times that I was on a call and my girls were upstairs and half of my brain was attached, like listening for the things, right, that were going on because my husband wasn't home. And so there is that ebb and flow of those kinds of things. And the next, chapter is, so Ellie was born in 2016. Things are going great. Our relationship, my husband's relationship and I, we were doing fantastic. Our family was doing great. We were traveling a lot. I was speaking at live events, and then 2020 happened, right? We've got all of the things that people all over the world experience with the pandemic, and kind of started to curtail things a little bit. We leaned more heavily into family time, being outside and away from people, which we love the outdoors anyway. So that was just icing on the cake.
That's what we were instructed to do. Like when we think about, you live in the US, I live in Canada. We were told, like, if you can't go inside, like, get outside, get your, go enjoy the great outdoors, get some natural vitamin D, and breathe in some good mountain air. So you following what we've been told to do?
We did. We did. And we got the girls new bikes so that we could go bike riding further. And then things kind of tightened down a little bit more. And we ended up getting a side-by-side. So a UTV vehicle, kind of like a 4-wheeler, but bigger for those that aren't aware of that. So you can take it into the back country. Okay. So in the way back country. And in 2020, the beginning of it, I went to a workshop where I was working with several entrepreneurs, a couple hundred of them, about digital marketing strategies. And it's like from that moment on, things just tightened up, and we had our girls come home from school. And so now, on top of building a business and all the other things, right, it was homeschool, where we were trying to figure out, our school system was trying to figure out, how do we help support these kids, again, preschool, 7-year-old in 2nd grade. Like, what does this look like, bringing them on to digital platforms and still making sure that all of the work got done? So it got really stressful, and we made more a point every weekend to go out. So whether it was a bike ride or a quick road warrior getaway, down to like Arches area. So Arches National Park is in southern Utah. It's about 3.5 hours from where we live. That's where the Delta Arch is that you see in magazines and things. And there's a lot of area out there to explore and to hike. And so for Mother's Day in 2020, we decided that we were going to take the weekend and go disappear out there. The girls were super stoked. That area is a place that, I kid you not, they picked over Disneyland more times than not. It was a job for me sometimes to be like, well, do you want to go here? How about we go like to Florida? Like trying to open up these options for my girls to see different things. And 9 times out of 10, it's like, nope, we want to go to Moab. We want to go out and play in the desert and do our thing. And so we did. We not booked our trip, but we got our trailer hooked up and we went out, and Mother's Day was beautiful. It was wonderful. It was the best Mother's Day that I had ever experienced. And life, like I said, was great. We were going to come back and launch a different facet to our business, a new coaching program, and things were looking good. The day after Mother's Day, May 11th, 2020, that all changed. We were hiking in our girls' favorite slot canyon called Little Wild Horse. For slot canyon, for those who don't know, it's basically a crack in the ground. It has high cliffs on either side. It can be fairly wide that you can drive a car through. In some sections, depending on the canyon, it can be so narrow that you can't touch on either side and you have to turn sideways to get through. And it's an area that I had been exploring for well over 20 years. It's a place that I'd gone pregnant with each of my girls, and we just had a lot of time out there. And the day after Mother's Day, that's the plan. We were going to go do that. And what they're calling the storm of a century moved in, and it dumped a ton of rain and hail, and it resulted in a flash flood where I almost lost my life and my girls lost theirs. So overnight, in an instant, my life as I once knew it was completely gone. My husband's life as he once knew it was completely gone. And all of the drivers that we had ever had for business, for life, for anything was completely reset, ground zero.
Wow.
Yeah. So talk about a life event. I went from a young family to empty nesters overnight. And had to rethink everything. I received personally extensive injuries where I was unable to do things for myself, that I was able to be at the funeral 11 days later, let alone plan one, was a miracle in and of itself, because I physically could not move. And there's been, residual things from that as well over the last, well, not even 21 months yet. Actually, February 11th will be 21 months. So it's been less than 2 years since this happened. And part of the process, part of the healing journey for me was, met with a trusted mentor and friend, and they recommended journaling. So I started to journal and write things down. And I shared snippets on social media with the thought process that if this is helpful for me to get out, hopefully it might help someone else who's dealing with something difficult. And had a lot of people reach out and ask me, have you ever thought about writing a book? And honestly, my first response to that was like, nope.
This is my journey. And I'd like to just pause there for a second, because there's some questions that are going through my mind. And those of you that are watching, you probably noticed that I'm not using StreamYard, where you can put your questions and that sort of stuff in. I love being the presence, because these amazing authors are sharing their gift, they're present with me. So if you have any questions for Becky, please put them in the comments. She knows where my Facebook is, and she can come back and answer those questions. Mm-hmm. I want to talk about this word grief. Mm-hmm. And in this past couple of years, it's been tagged on to a lot of grief of losing a job, grief of losing your house, grief of you losing your children, and the stages of grief. I know I lost my dad 5 years ago, and it was unexpected as well. And I would love to know a couple of, like they say, the acceptance, the denial, the fight, the bargaining, mm-hmm. Of which one rose first of all, if you can, of them, because they say they don't happen in order. And sometimes they repeat themselves again in order for, let's call it the lesson, or for us to kind of work through it. Is, if you wouldn't mind sharing, is what has been your experience with one of the 7 steps of the grief process?
Yeah, for me, when you asked the question, which one of those rose to the top that was most prominent for me, I would have to say it was bargaining quickly, followed by acceptance. Bargaining because I wanted something different. Her whole heart and soul, like that shock of, did this really happen? Like, am I really here? Mm-hmm. But the awareness, that the unrefutable awareness that yes, it did happen. Yes, this is going on. And there's, like, from the practical aspect of it, there's not anything I can do about it right now, right? I didn't have control over the weather. I don't have control over how things happened. It felt like a bad dream being played over and over again. And my mind wanted to create some alternate reality. It wanted to, the bargaining piece, like, how can this be? If we would have done something differently, would it have changed the outcome? Right. But the facts were so stark. I couldn't help but accept things as they were, even though my mind kind of tug of war between the two. Like, I want something different, but this is what is. I want something different, but this is what it is. For me, I feel like those two are probably the biggest pieces. I did experience anger, but not at the same level as some people might. Uh,
Mhm.
my anger was directed, just angry that I didn't have control, that I couldn't change anything. It wasn't directed at anybody. It wasn't anybody's fault per
Right.
se. It's just, it hurt, right? It hurts, not just hurt, but it hurts. And so I would say that those would be my top, would be acceptance, and then that bargaining piece, because anytime we're faced with change, okay, we want to negotiate our way into a more effective outcome for what we
Right.
perceive needs to happen, instead of, the acceptance of what is. And I feel like often acceptance is misunderstood in that, to accept something, you have to agree with it. And that's not the case. You can accept something and have it be motivating and empowering, or you can accept something and have it be devastating and defeating. It's a point for you where you get to choose which hinge do you want to use in this. The facts are the facts, and you can't change
Mhm.
the facts. And from
Right.
that point, like, do I want to use this as a springboard, or do I want to drown in it? And truthfully, the choice was up to me, whether I accepted it for what it was and moved forward in a positive light, empowering myself with that knowledge and that acceptance, or whether it was something that drug me down. So acceptance and choice are huge things for me.
Mhm.
Cornerstones, I would say.
Right. So with that, I would love for you at this point, I love for people to read the back of their book. So if you can grab the back cover, there were some very beautiful words when you sent me the both the front cover and the back cover that I'd have to say, now that I know your story, uh, words that I would never have, let's say, tagged into what you went through, Becky. So please do read the back of your book.
Okay. Mother's Day weekend felt enchanted and seemingly perfect until, suddenly and without warning, it instantly turned tragic. In a flash, thick darkness replaced bright sunshine. Excuse me. The sky opened, furiously unleashing torrential rain and hail in what some call the storm of the century. The downpour triggered a flash flood that swept away and shattered the life the Graff family once knew. What came after is a heartbreakingly beautiful journey of grief and acceptance. Becky courageously shares the powerful story of the first year after a loss. It is an honest and deeply personal look inside the turmoil and triumph that comes from attempting to rebuild a life torn apart.
And at this time, I'd love for you to let people know out there a couple of people that you believe need to be gifted this book, or who needs to have this book close to themselves. So who would you say are those two people?
I would say somebody who has recently, or maybe not even recently, somebody who has lost somebody important to them,
Mhm.
who feels adrift in hopelessness of a more effective outcome or happiness. I would say that would be person number one. Person number two would be someone who is struggling with change in their life, regardless of what that looks like, because
Okay.
the principles of overcoming challenge and change, whether it's a tragic loss like we experienced, or, you mentioned earlier, people tag grief onto like the loss of a job. Loss
Mhm.
is loss. The change of your dynamic, the shift in your world, the process of working through those things are very similar. They have overlap. And I would say that, the story that we share, or that is shared with our story, is one of what happened to us and the loss of our girls, absolutely. But it's also how we chose to be empowered in our own world, regardless of the circumstances that were thrown our way, to build a more effective life for ourselves, to be able to operate in a realm of hope and abundance instead of the alternative. So those would be the two people that I would say.
And I would say this book lives. I always, when I hear people's story, and I'm a really good gift giver. I love when I hear about presents. And I would say I could see a grief counselor having this book kind of as part of their package for families that are going through the same similar story that you went through. Yeah, I could definitely, or a hospice center. having this book kind of available to be read. So if you are any of those 2 people or 4 people that we kind of just mentioned there, I encourage you to grab some copies of Becky's book. And I'd love to wrap this up and to say, where are you in the here and the now with your spouse, and what's happening in Becky's life these days?
Staying busy. The launch of Swept Away, honestly, it garnered a lot more attention and enthusiasm than I could have ever dreamed of. And so I've been working on and working with people, speaking publicly about it, hopping on podcasts, meeting with beautiful people such as yourself, and really just attempting to shine a light on what's possible. What's possible despite some of the darkest days that you might be experiencing. And Tim and I are working to help people find personal and professional clarity, yes, but also adding a different slant onto how people can work through trauma, how they can work through, again, significant change in their worlds, offering a different outlook and perspective that is very powerful, something that's not just, oh, it's only pigeonholed to this, right? It's a process that they can develop for themselves that allows them to continually use the skills in their own life to work through change, because that's the one thing that we can guarantee in this life, is that there's going to be change, significant change sometimes not so much, but it still changes the dynamic of our world. It's still something that we have an opportunity to work through, and how we work through that, again, it can be empowering and enlightening and used as fuel, or it can be that stone that's kind of holding us back. And so that's kind of where we're at right now. Is we've had an opportunity recently to speak pretty frequently in front of people, live audiences, and also digital. And that's just the focus is living our life with intention so that we can illuminate a different perspective for people that may feel like there isn't one, right? To provide that hope and that light for them.
Beautiful. Absolutely beautiful. Again, a shout out to Diane. I have to kind of, over on this side, kind of my bangs on this side to kind of cover the tear. And it's tears of pure joy, that tears can run down a face to make space to receive someone's emotions. And wow, Becky, I'm honored, hopefully not cry myself, that you're brave. I'm wearing a courageous sweatshirt today, that you shared your story, and that you continue to share the story, that there is a different perspective in life. We can create anything with what the world gives to us. And you, my friend, with you and your hubby and your story, you're going to change lives. So with that, before I really start becoming a blubbering mess here, I'm just so honored. I'm so honored. You're like author number 44 that chose the time, your time currency, to spend time to share your story. Oh my gosh, guys. So grateful, so grateful. So I encourage you all, grab a cup of tea, grab a cup of coffee or hot chocolate or whatever your choice. Snuggle into the corner of your couch, grab a book, take your mind, your heart, your spirit to another place, to someone else's story, and experience it, because there could be that 0.5% after you read that story that's going to shift your life. It's going to give you a different perspective. It's going to remind you that we're all part of this thing called humanity, and we're here to help each other. So thank you, Becky. Tune in again as I kind of wipe these beautiful tears of joy, because when I step into my gifts, man, it makes me happy. Next Tuesday night, as I bring another author to the MYBC Virtual Bookstore Author Series, and they'll tell us why they took fingers to keyboard, pen to paper, or voice note to voice recorder to share their story with the world. Thank you so much, everybody. Have a good night.